current challenges that we face in the economy would have happened anyway. If you look at the statistics, this economy had been heading in this direction consistently for the last 7 to 8 years. Our GDP growth, whilst robust in nominal terms, was masking some very serious vulnerabilities. That is, it was a GDP growth that was not inclusive. And it was a GDP growth that basically consisted of a very high oil price, increasing debt levels. Indeed, we have all the debt that was forgiven in 2005 in the debt forgiveness had been gradually built up again in what is largely an unproductive economy. Only 10% of what we had been spending was going on capital. It is capital that grows an economy. No economy has ever grown or developed doing what we have been doing, which is spending 90%, 90 naira of every 100 on recurrent and only 10% on capital. That capital, that's the fiscal lever that allows economies to truly grow. And if not addressed, we will only mask the problem, but the problem will eventually vest. And that is really what we came in to inherit. So what did we decide to do? We had to attack the problem of recurrent expenditure. Currently, when we came in, 165 billion naira every month went on salaries. As we speak now, we've reduced it to 159. And every month, indeed every day, I am signing memos to remove people from the payroll who had either died or who had resigned or who didn't exist. If you spend 165 billion every month on salaries, there is very little left for capital. And that has been our problem. Just for context, 165 billion per month on salaries. Last year, for the whole of the Federation, we spent 19 billion on roads. That is why we are where we are. We spent 4.1 billion on transport. So the problems we are facing today have been building up for some time. This mantra of change is a fundamental change in the direction of the economy and how we manage the economy. And as you all know, change can be extremely painful and change can be extremely difficult to do. But we must change because the direction in which we have been heading is not sustainable. I want to, however, assure everybody that if ever there was a chance to get Nigeria's economy right, it is now. We have the right leadership. If you look at all the economies that have grown, they grew out of adversity. The Americans rebuilt their economy after the Second World War. So did the British, so did the Germans, so did the Japanese. Ethiopia, which is hosted now as a model economy in Africa with huge GDP growth, 60% of their budget went to capital. But it was built out of the adversity of them not being able to feed themselves. Now everybody is hosting Rwanda. Rwanda is building because they had a genocide. Nigeria is rebuilding now out of one of the worst periods economically that we've ever been through. And what we need is the cooperation of everybody, the understanding of the real issues, of why we are where we are, and the fortitude to go through the fundamental changes that must happen to build an economy that Nigerians will be able to give a future to the next generation. The diversification agenda is not a rhetoric. The diversification agenda is an economic objective that we will achieve with what we're doing with the budget, with our implementation, and with how we are managing our finances. So yes, we are borrowing. We need to borrow because we cannot wait for the oil price to recover. We have to borrow to invest in these large infrastructure projects that are needed to unlock the competitiveness in our economy and create jobs for our people. That's the objective of this government, and that's what we're working towards. I'm also extremely confident that we will get there. I know people are concerned about recession. Recession is a word. We can come out of a recession. We can make sure it is as short as possible by sticking to the prescription, which is we must be disciplined in our expenditure, we must invest in our capital, and we must diversify our economy. As I close, I would like to remind us all that not only am I the Minister for Finance in terms of implementing the federal government budget, but we're also responsible for the state and local governments. We have put together a fiscal sustainability plan, encouraging the state governments to equally begin to impose those disciplines that are needed, because there is no point in fixing the federal and leaving state and local governments, because every Nigerian lives in either a state or indeed a state and a local government. In other words, there are no federal Nigerians. This program must go all the way down. Everywhere there is government, there must be accountability. We must stop revenue leakages. We must fight the corruption, and there must be value for money in what we spend. And that must go all the way down to the bottom. That is what will reposition this economy, and that is what will unlock the growth opportunity of Nigeria. As I close, I'd like to say that when we started this journey 9 months ago, or indeed in November, it's nearly 9 months now, every single foreign investor that was coming in was coming to complain. Now they're coming in to ask about transactions. That's an extremely good sign. That's a good sign for Nigeria. We have people coming to ask us whether they can buy airlines from AMCON. We have people wanting to establish fish farms, and we are pushing them to the various opportunities across the country, because there is a confidence in Nigeria that with this discipline, with this leader, where people are sure that money is not going missing, we will finally deliver on the promise of Nigeria.